Welcome everyone to the Fourth Line Plugs review of Brad Treliving as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs and looking forward to their future under John Chayka. A little behind the scenes peek. This has been in progress for a while. The Leafs keep doing more and more things. And who knows, maybe after this uploads, there'll be another big shoe that drops in the saga that is the Toronto offseason, which is off to a roaring start. Playoffs are in round 2, and the Leafs are already making headlines like crazy every week. I'm ready to get off the wild ride, So the Toronto Maple Leafs, they have a storied history. So we'll start with looking at Brad Treliving. Toronto got eliminated from their playoffs. This was a weird situation with Kyle Dubas. Kyle Dubas' contract was up. Apparently, they offered him a contract extension 2 days after their playoff season ended. Dubas said he needed some time to think about it, but Shanahan said he felt pretty good about their conversation. And 3 days later, Calgary and Brad Treliving parted ways. 2 days later from there, Toronto told Dubas, you know what, we're not going to go with you as a contract. You haven't gotten back to us. We don't know where we're at, and we need to, start moving and start figuring things out. And then a month later, they hired Brad Treliving. Almost immediately after Toronto told Dubas no new contract, he signed with Pittsburgh. And both parties kind of threw some shots at each other in interviews afterwards, but neither one really divulged
what happened. So caused
a lot of what happened.
That relationship to fracture the way that it did.
Yeah. And then we'll fast forward 3 years later. Brad Treliving's fired from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, after they missed the playoffs, after they were one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League this year, after they've been struggling to do anything in the playoffs, even when they do make the playoffs. There's been some core issues with the Leafs roster construction. And today we're going to tell you why it's all Treliving's fault.
Yeah, and then Toronto hired John Chayka on May 5th. But, we'll start with where I think you have to start when you evaluate a GM of a non-expansion team. Because expansion team GMs, they get to kind of set the expectation. They could say, hey, we're going to try to compete right away like Vegas. Or they could say, we're going to go young. We're going to get a bunch of unproven guys and kind of build the sample for the future.
Never amount to anything like the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah. Or, you could do both like Seattle did, where they get a bunch of old guys and a bunch of young guys and they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But, when you inherit a team, you kind of inherit all of its expectations and the direction, and you can influence that a bit. But when you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the last Stanley Cup you won was in 1967, there's a lot of expectations. And when you inherit a team that's been in the playoffs for 7 consecutive seasons, you inherit those expectations. And when they've lost in the first round or the qualifier in the weird bubble playoffs.
Right, or before the first round.
Yeah. In 6 to 7 years, you inherit those expectations. And I went back to the 90s. There's been a lot of bad periods in Toronto. And you inherit a team that hasn't won since 67. Their fans are expecting us to be good, right?
Yeah.
This is what you inherit when you choose to GM the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I mean, their last time getting out of the first rounds before Treliving's tenure was 20 years prior in 2003, 2004.
Yep.
So that's a lot of either bad teams or teams that have struggled in the playoffs. So
yeah. And I did the names that are highlighted in silver. Those are the representatives of the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So they have lost to the eventual Cup winner or runner-up a lot of times here. And just have never been able to get it done. So looking at the team he inherited, this is what Dubas left him. Is a solid forward group. You'll notice the names in red are all expiring contracts, and the oranges are with 1 year remaining, which is most of the guys here. And the guys who are not is Nias, Tavares, and Marner all have 2 years left. So, not saying that Dubas gave him a grenade, but he kind of gave him a little bit of a grenade of what you inherit, which allows you opportunities to go figure things out.
Right. There's flexibility here.
There is. There's a lot of flexibility here. And then the prospect pool left them Minton, Gerbenkin, Nyes, Robertson, and Amira of RIP. Not a ton, but like there's not nothing here. There's some decent players here.
Yeah, I mean, and then also, with the power of hindsight, we now know that Nyes is a very good NHL player. Minton is a good NHL player with potential for more, and Robertson is at the very least a good NHL player. So
and Nyes got injured in that Florida series. He was very good in the playoffs for Toronto. Who knows? Maybe Dubas never leaves, and we're talking about a really good team if Nyes doesn't get injured there, if Bunting doesn't get suspended. Like, there's so many what ifs with the Leafs. And then on the blue line and the goaltending, again, lots of expiring. This is a very old blue line. I think the only guy under 30 at this point is Morgan Riley and Justin Hall. Of their top six, and then Lil Dragun and Timmins down in the press box. Also, this was the last year of Jake Muzzin. He got injured early on to the season and never played again, which was really unfortunate. He was at times the best defenseman for the Leafs. And then the prospect department, he left them no defense prospects. The Leafs' defense issues are long noted. And the only goalie prospect of note is Joseph Wall, who was a rookie this season. Actually, wasn't even an official rookie. He didn't play enough. But he made some spot starts in the playoffs. And, yeah, this is just, you got Luke Shen, Mark Giordano, TJ Brody. These are all very old defensemen. Shen actually ended up being really good in the playoffs, and this is like Riley's like best stretch as a Leaf. Debatably this playoffs, but like you look at the rest of this team, it's like -7, -7, -7, -3 on this blue line. It's like unplayably bad. Even though in the regular season there's a lot of pluses, there's a lot of good XG in here. They were really good in the regular season, and then in the playoffs they had one playable defense pair of Riley and Shen, and the rest of them were completely unplayable. And then the picks department, I don't know that this is 100% accurate. This was kind of difficult to find. But as far as I could tell, he had a first, a fifth, and a sixth to work with his first year. Had a lot of bonus picks behind the first in 2024. And then 2025, he didn't have a first or a second. So, an interesting spot that he picked up in. So his first year, they go 46, 26, and 10. They're third in the Atlantic. They lose to Boston round 1 in 7, as is scripted. And he made some interesting moves here. Starting the summer, 5th round pick for Sam Lafferty, fine trade. And then brought in Pontus Holmberg, re-signed Pontus Holmberg and David Kampf. That David Kampf contract became an anchor. After a while, 4 years at $2.4 million. He was kind of worth it his first year into the second year. Those last 2 years, he was absolutely not worth that money. And then in UFA here, I mean, this is a collection of players for sure. We have John Klingberg, Ryan Reeves, Max Domi, Tyler Bertuzzi, all brought in to bring some. Well, not Klingberg. Klingberg was brought in to try to fix their blue line, which was an interesting choice based off his last season there with Anaheim and Minnesota at a -25. But, Reeves, Domi, and Bertuzzi, they're brought in to be tough, right? They're brought in to buck the trend of the soft Toronto Maple Leafs. Ryan Reeves was given a 3-year deal. That was an anchor contract.
Ryan Reeves has ruined a lot of franchises.
Yeah. and he was terrible. Max Domi's still with the team. Not a bad choice. And Bertuzzi was solid for his year. He chose not to resign, for whatever reason. And then also notably have this Auston Matthews extension here, 4 years, $13.25 million with an NMC. This is a big issue. Is that Matthews got everything? Any one of those things. I mean, 13.25 is pretty expensive, but really any one of those things isn't too bad. To give term, or like a short term.
Yeah, it's less. It's less term because of who he is, right? So it was only 4 years instead of the 8 that it could have been.
Yep.
That he was eligible for. I think if this is an 8-year deal, we're not all freaking out, but
yeah. Or if it was 11 million, or didn't have a full NMC, or like just any of that, but he got maximum, not max by like rules max, but I mean basically the max money that you could get that anybody's reasonably going to offer. Also on short term, so he could sign another contract in his prime, and got a full no move clause. Like,
right.
He's gave Matthews everything, and honestly, I didn't see him getting raked over as much for this as like Dubas did for his contracts, where Dubas gave, a ton of money and NMCs and stuff. Like Treliving also handed out some not good contracts to these guys. And like the Nylander one, he at least got 8 years. But again, that's actually a fine contract. I'm not going to complain too much about that one. And then on this team, he spent a 6 1/3 for Lyubushkin, which is, not going to fix your blue line at the deadline. And then a 6th on Cade Weber, who ended up not really doing anything. And then also spent a 3rd and a 5th on Joel Edmondson. So this team ended up not doing anything, getting eliminated round 1 to Boston. And almost all of these deals are pretty low value for the Leafs.
Yeah, they didn't pick up any big core parts to bolster the blue line that we marked as being so bad. All the moves there were not very good. I think not being able to keep Bertuzzi was kind of a big deal. And then obviously you pointed out the Matthews contract being something that we'll be talking about when we get to the end of this and we talk about current day. Because
So going into year 2, not the rosiest outlook, but they ended up 52-26-4, won their division, which notable in the Atlantic because that division's hell every year. Round 1, they beat their provincial rival in Ottawa 4-2, and then lost to, again, the eventual Stanley Cup winner, Florida, in 7, which was a heartbreaker because that really felt like it was a chance. That year, he got a little funky, traded out of number 23 to get number 31 and number 58, which I don't hate on its surface. Made a really nice move of Max Ellis in the 7th for Chris Tanev. Chris Tanev had trade protection to kind of force his way to Toronto, so he got the discount. But I mean, that's honestly a great trade. Got a 6th and a 3rd for Liljegren. I think this is good, but like this is one of like their only young players that they've had for a while on this blue line.
Yeah,
and they're gonna again replace it with a bunch of old guys. And
something you didn't mention about
in the future,
Chris Tanev is how old,
yes,
and how long the contract was for.
That is in here in the middle here. We got the Chris Tanev 6-year, $4.5 million sign and trade with a full NMC at age 34, I believe. I think this takes him to age 40, or maybe it was age 35 and takes him to 41. Either way, takes him to his early 40s.
Yeah.
This contract is designed to be horrible in the future, But this contract is also designed to make them as competitive as possible for 1 or 2 years before Marner walks, before Matthews' contract is up, before Tavares' contract was up. And obviously, we're talking about this contract 2 years later, so it has not worked out. But I mean, Chris Tanev is still arguably the best defenseman on the Leafs, which is a problem in and of itself.
Yeah.
And then so I mean, there's some okay deals in here. You know, you got a Domi extension. You know, Matt Murray, whatever. Nice signing for Stolarz, finding him from Florida as a backup. OEL, also a good deal finding him from Florida. He's fitting really nicely. You know, McCabe, nice extension. So there's some okay deals. Pacioretty was a good gamble. Didn't pay off too well, but he played really well in the 20-something games before he had his career ended. But looking over here at the top, we have their trade deadline, which is a massive issue for why he got fired, in my opinion, and kind of the crutch or the centerpiece of what made Treliving's time so horrible. So he traded Fraser Minten, a first-round pick, this one's the top 5 protected one, and a 4th from Philadelphia for Brandon Carlo. Second pair defenseman, an okay second pair defenseman, not even a spectacular one. This is their their second highest forward prospect behind Easton Cowan, and a first for a second pair defenseman.
Yeah,
I hated this deal at the time. The Leafs historically have needed a 3C ever since Kadri left, and Fraser Minten had proven that he could be that guy. In his time, opportunities that he got, and yeah, that one hurt. Timmins and Dewar to Pittsburgh for a 5th. I feel like they could have got maybe a little bit more value, particularly for Connor Timmins. But he had kind of been at the valley of his value as a young player, and Dewar was seen as just like a 4th line guy.
We'll say both of those guys in the playoffs this year.
Yeah,
contributing to their team.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you know.
And then Nikita Grabenkin and a 2027 top 10 protected first for Scott Laughton, that 4th that they sent for Brandon Carlo, and a 2027 6th. This was also bad. It's not as bad because Grabenkin is like a 13th forward, maybe a 12th regular in the NHL.
Grabenkin not really a prospect that is a part of their future, while Minten was. But ultimately, the combination of those two moves is that they sent out 2 firsts and a potential like contributor on their team in the day and now for a 4th line player and medium second pairing defenseman.
Yeah.
And a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
That's the full thing. So it's not fantastic.
No, it's quite bad. You know?
Yeah, that's a lot of assets that could have been used. Like that package itself is enough to go get you like a real difference maker. Like two firsts and a real prospect is enough to go get you like a top pairing defenseman, top 6 good player. You know.
Yep.
I don't have any trades handy similar, but I don't know what is
not quite Quinn Hughes.
Right.
But like the next tier down, probably.
Yeah.
Level player, which I mean, it always depends on like who's available, and you know,
like
if I remember right, this market was pretty competitive. Like a lot of teams got some good deals.
Colton Parayko was almost traded, but wasn't traded. But the teams agreed to the deal this offseason for basically a Minten level prospect and a first.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, and Parayko is twice the defenseman that Brandon Carlo is in terms of basically everything he can do. So,
yeah.
Yeah, this is piss poor asset management. Let's be honest.
Terrible.
Like I don't know.
Also, like, not even just Mitten was potentially a great 3C for you, but Tavares is not young.
Mm-hmm.
And he's aged out of his role and aged out of being a center and maybe being shifted more towards the wing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is
right
top center prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he should only be a 3C, but I mean, there's an opportunity where you could try him at 2C and see, hey, is this an in-house option to fill that spot?
Yeah, I mean,
for way cheaper.
Anyone with Nylander can potentially be that kind of thing just because of the kind of play driver he is. You don't need as good of a 2C as Tavares has been.
Yeah. For
Willie, so yeah, for sure. This is the ostrich. This is the big deal here. Those players didn't end up making the difference here against Florida.
No. No, they were completely invisible.
Yeah.
I think actually Lawton got hurt, to be fair to him, but
not to be fair to to Treliving, so
yeah. So then this next season, from going to Game 7 against Florida in the second round, and if they win that, who knows? They got Carolina, maybe you can roll past them, and to finishing 8th in the Atlantic, 32, 34, and 14 record. Just absolutely fell apart, disappointing. We'll talk about that Scott Lawton again in a moment, but they start off nice with a third for Matthias Michelli.
Yeah, we both liked that move a lot at the beginning of the year. I remember.
Yeah. And then trading Mitch Marner for Nick Waugh 1-for-1. Obviously, Marner with his NMC forced his way to Vegas. They should be happy they got Nick Waugh at all. Vegas could have given him a 7th and said, tough. Because the next day he would have been a UFA and gone for free. And then, traded Ryan Reeves for Henry Thrun. Who cares? Traded a 4th for Dakota Joshua. I liked that move. And that's all they did this summer.
Yeah.
To address the team. They
lost Mitch Marner, Kane, Nick Waugh, and a couple of medium wings.
They traded Marner for a third line. Marner a 3rd and a 4th for a brand new third line.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I didn't hate this because we were losing Marner anyway. And, we could, depth was an issue. But that panned out to not be a very good take from me. This group didn't really get a lot done. Nick Waugh never really fit. Matthias Michelli didn't fit till like halfway through the season. Dakota Joshua still never fit. And probably won't be with the team next season if I had to bet.
I mean, they're just it's the combination of these two things basically, right? It's last year basically trading away your 3 most valuable assets that you have for medium gains at the deadline, right? These short-term medium gains at the deadline with no plan in place to replace, because everyone knew that Mitch Marner was going to be gone after the season, right? Like there was no way that the cap was going to work, or maybe there was a way that the cap was going to work, but Treliving didn't make that happen, right? So like the basic
relationship with Marner fractured so much,
right? So really, it's here we're all in on 1 year, right? And we didn't even make good moves to go all in on that year. And then the year after that, you still have the team. You still have the same issues that you had the previous year that you didn't quite solve with those issues. But now you lose Mitch Marner, who was the second best player on the team. And has shined this year with Vegas. Looks phenomenal in the playoffs right now. Outside of Toronto. So I mean, it's I don't know. It's shocking how I don't know. Like if you trade Minton the first and you go out and you get Marner's replacement, like a bona fide top 6 wing. Right? Or even you go different and you get like a real top defenseman or something like that. You like a real elite player where you're replacing the thing, then you're all in on the last year, and you still have pieces for this year to try and rebuild, right? Like, you could still have done the Mitch Marner for Nick Waugh deal, right? And had been able to bolster your depth, but you still have...
You could have done all these moves, so.
Right.
A third and a fourth, you still have those.
Right. Like, all of these moves are fine, and they helped, but the problem is that he didn't address the issues last year that they had, and he didn't address Marner leaving this year appropriately with the assets that he had. You can't trade all of your tradable assets for Brandon Carlo and Scott Lawton, right? When you have a guy like Mitch Marner that you have to replace. Like, two firsts and Fraser Minton almost could get you a Mitch Marner level player. Like, it could, depending on the team who's desperate enough, Like, I don't know. Does that, like, get you could that have gotten, like, a Nazem Kadri, like, this year? Or could that have, you know what I mean? Like, you could probably have Kadri and Minton.
Yeah.
This year, right? You could be the one doing the Kadri reunion instead of Colorado, right? Like, all these assets are just gone, and then this year it had nothing to work with, and so there's no real moves that you can make to replace the Marner deal. It's just piss poor asset management, and a team that did not have the flexibility to be able to afford to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And still, in all this time, still not addressed this blue line,
right?
Because if you look at the signings, it was just extensions. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I like these extensions. They're all good deals. Tavares at that cap hit, I mean, went from a kind of a issue contract to arguably one of the best contracts in hockey. Mm-hmm. That Matthew Nyes deal is also great.
Yeah.
The Lorentz deal is great for what he is as a fourth liner.
Yeah.
Stolarz, the injuries have kind of made that contract a little iffy, but I mean, still a starter quality guy.
Yeah.
At that cap hit, that's good.
That is not a bad cap hit. That is not like a difficult to move cap hit or anything like that. Like, that is a reasonable and only a 16-team no move clause. Like, that's a totally fine contract. All these extensions, good extensions. All these moves in the offseason, fine moves, but there just wasn't enough in the tank to be able to get them back to where they needed to be. And age on that blue line. And injuries because of age, and also just injuries happen, and all of a sudden you get what we got this year, which was just a kind of sad looking team.
Yeah. Leaves him selling at this deadline.
Yep.
And to be fair, not a too bad of a return. You get a first and a fifth for Nick Waugh. So essentially you get a first and a fifth for Mitch Marner. That's not ideal. But, for somebody who's, again, a day away from going to Vegas for free, you take it. Bobby McMahon for a second and a fourth. I would have liked to keep Bobby McMahon, kind of, because, I don't know, this team needs some heart and soul, and he's kind of a heart and soul guy, so it would have been nice to keep him. This
team also needs some assets, so...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's a good return.
Then you turn around and you get a third for Scott Lawton. So, you traded Grabenkin and a first for a third. It's tough.
That is really rough.
Mm-hmm. So Treliving was fired.
Yep.
Shortly after this trade deadline. Mm-hmm. And then we all learned who Keith Pelley was. Who was the president of the Maple Leafs, very quietly. They fired Shanahan the year before, or his contract expired and they didn't renew. I don't remember which one. But either way, Brendan Shanahan, the Shanahan plan was out, and everybody just kind of didn't care who the new guy was. And I still wish I didn't know who this guy is. Keith Pelley is, which I want. It's not too much of what this is supposed to be, but, he is the president of the Maple Leafs. He's also the president of the Toronto Raptors, of Toronto FC, of the 3 esports organizations that they own. I don't remember what all games they play in. And then there's another team that he's the president of all these organizations. Also replaced Masai Ujiri, for any Raptors fans, who was seen as one of the best presidents and GMs in the NBA for a time. And he is not a sports guy whatsoever. He's a business guy. He was a CEO of Rogers Sports Entertainment, which is, Rogers Telecommunications, which for, Americans, it's like the equivalent of AT&T. It's the equivalent of the CEO of AT&T being in charge of, the the Cowboys, and the Yankees. It'd be something insane like that. And so that's the guy that runs the Leafs. And he very much talks and acts like a CEO and like a business guy and not a sports guy. So whenever talking about his requirements before hiring John Chayka, they want to retool around Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and Nyes. That is a direct quote of players that they want to retool around. But they're willing to consider a rebuild if somebody pitches them that's the best path forward. Looking for a data-driven guy, cited Carolina and Florida as two teams that are, have really embraced analytics and not so much of the old school vibe-based scouting. Wants to play some money ball. No GM experience required. They are not afraid to hire, a young guy with new ideas, which I like that.
You applied, right?
I like the data-driven approach too.
You applied for this position, right?
Yeah, 100%. They're looking for a GM and a head of hockey operations. Could be the same or separate people. Not a president of hockey operations. We'll get to that. And they get to pick the next head coach or keep Berube, who is still on the payroll as of this recording.
Yeah. That could be the next domino to fall. TBD.
that could be. Or, they might roll with Berube if they don't feel like there's a better option out there, which, yeah. So this section was built before they hired Chayka, so we don't have to go through all this. But this is, the list of candidates that are out there. That all were rumored to and tied to. These are all the previous GM experience guys. Doug Armstrong ended up turning them down. He's going to stay with St. Louis. Mike Gillis was out there. Patrick Allvin was out there even before Vancouver fired him. Yzerman, his name has been floated around even though Detroit hasn't done anything with him. But there's some writing on the wall around Peter Chiarelli, Mark Bergevin, Kevin Adams, as options. I didn't love any of these names. And then these are all the non-experienced GMs. Sonny Mehta, who did get hired by New Jersey, even though they fired Tom Fitzgerald after the Leafs fired Treliving, they went and hired my preferred candidate, who was an AGM with Florida, founded the Department of Analytics with New Jersey, also worked in analytics for Phoenix and Washington. And I just like this guy's resume of coming from an analytics background.
Yeah, and a proven cup winner.
Yeah. He seemed like a really interesting guy. Brandon Pridham, he's been an AGM with Toronto since 2014. I wasn't super sold on him. He's been the interim GM both after Dubas got fired and then after Treliving got fired.
If you're not good enough to get hired after being interim GM twice, then you probably don't have the chops that it takes for the job yet.
And I don't think from what I've seen, he's not super interested in it. He likes being an AGM. He's the guy who wrote the current salary cap. Who, after he wrote this, then took a job with Toronto and has been like a cap wizard and has found all these loopholes and stuff that because he wrote them. And as the new CBA comes out and it changes, maybe his value becomes less and less. But he's a money guy. He likes to stay a money guy, I think. You got Spezza, Brett Peterson, Mark Hunter, who's an interesting guy that I would absolutely not want to hire. Haley Wickenheiser as a promotion. Bill Scott's name was pretty hot. He's been assistant GM in Edmonton since 2014. Scott White, who's been a GM and assistant GM with Texas and Dallas for a long time. He was also heavily rumored. And the Nashville logos are also guys that have been rumored around Nashville. Who still, they have not. They were ahead of Toronto in firing their GM. Or I guess Poyle retiring. And they still haven't hired a guy. And then these are just some other people who got listed with them. And then these are some long shots that were more memes than anything that I saw. People talk about like Rob Blake with how bad he was in LA. Watch him go there. Jim Benning, who was GM in Vancouver and saw the downfall of that organization. Tom Fitzgerald with New Jersey, and then John Chayka. These were all jokes on the internet. And they end up hiring John Chayka, who his first NHL job, as far as I could find, was assistant GM with Arizona for one season, and then became the GM of Arizona, and the GM and president of hockey operations there for 4 years.
Yeah,
that's his whole resume.
Yeah, and he got his team moved.
Yeah, I mean, So talking about John Chayka, he's a not my choice. I'll say that. He was the youngest general manager in the history of the NHL. He was hired at 26 years old in May of 2016. He resigned, and we'll talk about each of the seasons. He resigned July of 2020, one day before the bubble playoffs, the COVID ones that got delayed.
Mm-hmm.
He resigned from the team one day before they started. It was the first playoffs for Arizona since 2012, so it was a big deal for that organization. He had 3 years left on his contract. Reports soon after surfaced that Chayka was actively seeking the GM role with the Devils while under contract with Arizona, without communicating with Arizona, ownership or anything. He got suspended for 1 year in the NHL in January 2021 for pursuing opportunities with other teams while under contract. He got suspended after he resigned. In August of 2020, so 2 months after he resigned, but completely separate to the other controversy, there was an investigation from the NHL that found that Arizona conducted illegal pre-draft testing with more than 20 CHL prospects pre-combine, where apparently they were doing like some I didn't fully understand it, but like they were trying to they were measuring brain activity of them under like different circumstances.
Okay.
Of these guys. And the NHL forced the Coyotes to forfeit their 2020 second and their 2021 first. So they lost a first and a second due to his illegal pre-draft testing.
Yeah. Sketchy dealings.
Yeah. And then banned from the NHL for a year for jumping ship. And he has been out of the league since July 2020. Has been completely disappeared from hockey until May 2026 when he got hired as the Toronto Maple Leafs new GM. And then shortly after the announcement came out, at least one team told the NHL that Chayka was found tampering with their staff. Previously, NHL investigation has found that claim to be unsubstantiated as of now.
Real professional. Here,
And like,
yeah,
people make all the excuses. They say it was a 26-year-old. He was, young. He hadn't really been around the league, so he didn't know all the rules, which I call BS on that. Especially because a lot of it happened when he was 30, so not like his first year. If it happened like his first off season on the job, maybe I could get behind that, right? But you just don't know all the rules. Arizona wasn't known as like the most professional organization, so any of those issues. But I wouldn't want a guy who got caught trying to leave his team with 3 years left on his contract. I would not.
Yeah, regardless of whether that got him suspended or not, it's a major red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, there'll be people that say, oh, well, can you blame a guy for trying to get out of the Coyotes at this time? Literally burning down, literally moving into a college arena. Ownership didn't let him do anything. They were consistently like right above the salary floor. Obviously he's going to try to go to an organization like the Devils, right? That, has some more rep, but I wouldn't. And then also, I could get behind hiring him as an assistant general manager, right? Bringing him in as an analytics guy.
Mm-hmm.
You say, hey, we think he can bring something to the organization,
right?
Whether that's true or not, and let him, cut his teeth and
right. Maybe he's a future GM candidate if you need
Yeah.
one like down the line or something like that. Like you could be the guy. You can be a team that takes a risk on a guy like this. There's no reason to take a risk with him to be your actual GM. Like, like he didn't get an AGM job for the last 4 years while he's been a viable candidate for that. Like he was just not doing anything. Like
he was managing Wendy's. He and his wife own I think it's 48 or 49 Wendy's. And he's also done some other business stuff. We'll talk about the business stuff. But just giving him a fair shot at evaluating him as a GM in Arizona, 2016.
Wait, you know what's also fun, Colin?
He's
still the youngest GM in the league.
I didn't know that. That is fun. I guess he's no longer the youngest ever GM in the league.
But he is the youngest current GM in the league.
Yeah. Which I don't even hate that. Like, I don't even mind hiring a 34-year-old to be, your GM in this day and age. Just, somebody with a bit more recent experience
or with a bit less red flag experience in their past.
Somebody who hadn't been banned. Right. Somebody who hadn't lost you your first and second round picks. Guy who wasn't in charge of a team that relocated, just after. So 2016, he hops on the job, kind of nails a couple picks here.
Yeah, these are good picks.
Clayton Keller, 7th overall. Jacob Chikrin, 16th overall. I listed a notable guy who was taken afterwards on these, which again is big hindsight. You could say that McAvoy's better than Keller. You're probably right, but
there's a lot of shots in the dark that happen in terms of these drafts, and so we listed players that were drafted afterwards. And if there's more context, like some guy was supposed to be drafted and then was passed up, then we'll point that out. But Keller and Chikrin are great picks here.
And then these late picks, these are real shots in the dark. Real
no one's gonna expect you to get Brandon Hagel in the 6th round.
Yeah. The pick after you take a guy who didn't play any NHL games.
That's tough.
That's kind of tough.
That's tough.
That's tough. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. But that's not costing points in my mind,
No.
That's just unlucky.
Yeah, that is. That's just one of those things you go back and you look at those drafts and you're like, oh my God, that's
right.
That Brandon Hagel?
How different of a timeline could we be living in?
Yeah. And then, looking at his free agencies, that summer he signed a 28-year-old Jamie McGinn to a 3x3.33. And then a bunch of small deals, 28-year-old Jamie McBain, 28-year-old Ryan White, 26-year-old Luke Shen out of Toronto, 35-year-old Radim Verbata. And then, some extensions down here. Gave Shane Doan, his $5 million 1-year deal to be, 39-year-old mascot. Connor Murphy, the one that just went from Chicago to Edmonton, was in Arizona. He gave him a 6x3.85 at 23 years old. Nice extension. And so, this is a pretty solid off season of work here in his first one. Which makes you maybe not too upset or concerned yet. Looking at his trades, this one with Detroit was a little weird. He had two guys who were basically LTI or retired. Neither one played a game in the NHL again. And essentially traded the 20th overall and the 53rd overall for the 7th overall and took Keller with that pick. Which, I think is some nice asset management. Sure, you could have had Hronek. But not too bad. Traded, 37th overall pick for a 21-year-old Tony DeAngelo. who has his red flags. But at 21 years old, the talent is interesting enough, and not bad for a second. Again, some more good moves. Traded for a 19-year-old Lawson Krause and 30-year-old Dave Bolland, which that's just a contract dump. For a third and a second. I think everybody's pretty happy with that one. Lawson Krause still an impact player with the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah.
At this time. And then this big one, traded Martin Hansel, Ryan White, who he signed for a one by one in the summer right before this, and a fourth for a 2017 first, a second in 2018, a fourth in 2019, and a throwaway prospect. So overall, this is some good asset management year one.
Yeah.
And makes you think, okay, well, maybe this isn't going to be so bad. The next year he follows it up, not the best. Drafting, year two, takes P.O. Joseph, 23rd overall.
Yeah.
Which, he's played 225 NHL games. So 70, maybe a 60.
Yeah, that's not the worst use of a late first. Like, at least he got an NHL player out of it, but certainly not the best player he could have gotten.
Yeah, certainly not Jake Ottinger 3 picks later, or Jason Robertson a few picks after that, or there's somebody else that I don't remember. That was also a quality player. Took a defense. He took a lot of defensemen, which I think is good for Toronto fans because I think we need to start drafting some defensemen. But drafted a defenseman who didn't play in the NHL in the second round. Could have had Morgan Geekie. That's tough. Nice fourth liner Mackenzie Entwistle in the third round. Could have had Kovacevic. Tough. And then a bunch of guys who didn't play in the NHL could have had Stuart Skinner, Mikey Anderson, Jeremy Swayman, Noah Cates, Nick Perbix. I like to find all those, but you're not gonna ever find all those. No GM.
This is a lot of it's 3/3, a fourth of 2/5, and a seventh, right? None of those guys turned into
Cameron
players,
Crosby's
right?
the only guy who's playing the NHL. He played one game with Ottawa this season.
Right.
So and he was at the end of the season. It was when everyone was hurt in April. So before April,
right,
they got 0 games played from all this.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they got 193 out of Entwistle.
Right.
Well, they didn't get it. Chicago and Florida did.
But yeah, so this is a pretty bad draft.
Yeah.
This is a pretty bad. After a quite a good draft, this is a much worse one.
Yeah. If you nail Ottinger and you get one of Anderson or Cates, then I think this is good.
Yeah, you gotta get a player out of this.
Yeah, they got a 70 and a 13th forward, and a bunch of filler.
Yeah.
Didn't get that active in free agency. This is the Arizona Coyotes, who always spent to the floor. I doubt that's Chayka's fault. I doubt any GM is actively choosing that route. That's probably coming from management saying, here's your budget. Ignore what the NHL tells you the budget is. This is what the budget is. So didn't spend a lot there. But a couple interesting names here in the extensions. You got Nick Cousins on a 2 by $1 million. Not too bad. Jordan Martinook. 25-year-old Jordan Martinook on a 2 by 1.8. Not bad. 22-year-old Anthony Duclair on cheap deal. Darcy Kemper and Antti Ranta, on some decent contracts. And then let a bunch of just guys walk in. Then Shane Doan retired.
Yep.
Which we'll get to Shane Doan a little bit later on. And then this is where you start to see some of the not so good trades come in. You get 24-year-old Connor Murphy and Laurent Dauphin, who's AHLer, career AHL nobody. For 30-year-old Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
Yeah, remember how good we were saying about that Connor Murphy contract extension? Yeah. Didn't get to live that one out here.
Nope. And that would have taken him to age 30, and it would have been really good for the team. But instead, they traded him for Nicholas Hjalmarsson on the back end of his career. Traded Tony DeAngelo and a 2017 first, which they didn't know at the time what it was, but ended up being the 7th overall pick for 27-year-old Derek Stepan and 28-year-old Antti Ranta.
That's a bad one.
That's bad.
That's a real bad one.
That's a really bad one. Trading the first for Stepan and Ranta is
and
not great.
And Tony DeAngelo, who's still,
Yeah, which I mean, we know with hindsight we could say, that's fine. Not having Tony DeAngelo on your team. Plenty of teams have chosen that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they traded a 5th round pick for Scott Wedgwood. Not too bad. Scott Wedgwood this time was seen as a career number 3 and not going to be an impact NHLer.
Right. Not a Vezina finalist potential.
They traded a 35-year-old Louis Domingue, 25-year-old Louis Domingue as at the time a pretty decent goalie prospect, ended up not panning out, for a 36-year-old goalie Michael Layton and Ty McGinn. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Traded with Pittsburgh, sent that 36-year-old Michael Layton to Pittsburgh, and a 4th for Josh Archibald, Sean McGuire, and a 6th. That's a whole just throw everything in the trash can trade.
No one cares about that trade.
They later, this is not related to this earlier Chicago trade. This is later in the season, traded back for Laurent Dauphin and Richard Panik for Adam Clendenning and a 22-year-old Anthony Duclair, which again, yikes! You traded back for a nobody prospect and gave up Anthony Duclair, who ended up being a decent NHLer. And then made a nice little move getting Darcy Kemper for Toby Reeder and Scott Wedgwood. Not too bad, but yeah, this is where the good offseason immediately gets replaced with this one.
Yeah, I mean losing the first. That's crazy, I think.
Yeah.
As a floor team, trading your first for what ultimately was just not impactful.
Yeah.
Tony DeAngelo, we talk shit about Tony DeAngelo because he's got a lot of issues, but he's also played almost 500 NHL games.
Still playing NHL.
Right.
Stefan Ranta, long retired.
Right.
Like a 3C and like a 1B
right.
at their peaks.
Whatever the hell they were doing with Chicago.
Yeah.
Dauphin, and then also losing Connor Murphy in that deal. Like, what? They sent away Anthony Duclair and Connor Murphy to Chicago to just not for nothing, for fun.
For Panik and Hjalmarsson.
For fun? Yeah.
This is not the last time we'll see them training with Chicago. Who at the time, this is Stan Bowman as the GM. So, if you see any rumors with Toronto and Edmonton coming up, I hope he loses his phone number. Because, this is not the last we'll see of Arizona-Chicago trades that don't work out.
Yeah.
2018, not too bad of a rebound on this draft, honestly. Takes Barrett Hayton, 5th overall. Quinn Hughes was 2 picks later. That's pretty tough. But Barrett Hayton's been a quality NHLer. Utah is thankful to have Barrett Hayton. I'm sure.
He's a good player.
Could have had Quinn Hughes, but hindsight is everything. Kevin Ball, not too bad in the 2nd round. Jan Yannick, not really a guy. Ty Amberson, decent.
Yeah.
60, 70. And then really nothing else in the rest of this. I guess Prozatov was an interesting goalie prospect for a while that hasn't really panned out. But you look at the list of guys that they could have had. This wasn't the best draft. They could have had Connor Dewar, Jordan Harris, Sharon Govich, Holmberg, Kesselring, Tyler Tucker. There's solid NHLers, but not a bunch of studs that they missed out on.
Yeah.
Than Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, and then also Noah Dobson and Evan Bouchard and
in the first round,
all the other Rasmus Sandin.
Yeah, first round was pretty good. The depth wasn't quite there like you saw in some like in the previous draft in 2017, where there's like just studs kind of all through the draft that can be found. 2018 free agency. Again, he went and got Michael Grabner. I gave him a little bit of money, 3 by 3.35 at 31 years old. Kind of yikes, but that's fine. Gave OEL his giant contract, his 8 by 8.25 at 27 years old, that he's still on.
He's still getting money from that contract.
Actually, no. I think that one is expired. I think he's on a new one.
Was that point? Did it expire this year? Because it was on.
Right. He got bought out, so he's still getting paid for this.
That's what I mean. Like he's still on the Mammoth now books for this contract, right? Like,
actually, no. He's on Vancouver's books.
Right.
Yes. Traded for this contract.
Yes. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And that's not a trade that he made. That was a trade that the following GM made. We got Michael Bunting. Christian Dvorak is here. Getting a nice little 6 by 4.45 at 22 years old. Not too bad. Chikrin, a really nice 6 by 4.6 at 20 years old.
What a wonderful contract, man. It'd be nice if you played that one.
Nick Schmaltz, is here. On a pretty nice deal. Like his extensions are not. I mean, the OEL one aged pretty poorly, but not too unreasonable.
That was
contracts out of the house.
That was pretty bad, but signed the young guys that were good to good contracts, right? Like Schmaltz, Chikrin, Dvorak is fine. Like those guys are all, guys you want to re-sign.
Yeah. 2018, not the best year again of trades. Traded a 26-year-old Jordan Martinook in a fourth for Marcus Kruger in a third. Yikes! I think they'd rather have Martinook than Kruger. Kruger's out of the league, and Martinook is in the playoffs. So what a trade here! Max Domi for Galchenyuk, 1-for-1. Both teams looking to jumpstart their disappointing top 5 picks. You don't hate that. I think it didn't work out for Arizona at all, but you don't hate the shot. Again, with Chicago, they trade the 74th overall pick for the 87th and the 142nd. Kind of whatever. Depends on your called shots. The names in the parentheses are all nobodies, so nothing of value moved in this trade.
Yeah.
And then with San Jose, they traded the 87th pick that they got from Calgary for the 114th and the 145th.
Yep.
So just trading down.
Yep. It's totally fine.
Yeah. And then again with Chicago, they traded Andrew Campbell, Mackenzie Entwistle, a 19-year-old Mackenzie Entwistle, Marcus Kruger, who they just got for Jordan Martinook, Jordan Maleta, who's nobody, and a 5th for Vinny Hinostroza, 39-year-old Marian Hossa, Jordan Osterley, and a 2019 third.
Yikes. I mean, I guess.
Yeah. This is a pretty nothing trade. Again, so many deals with Chicago. And we're not done, by the way, for anybody who's scanned to the bottom of this.
Oh, man.
As we have a Dylan Strome and Brandon Perlini for Nick Schmaltz deal down here as well, which I think turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I think they're totally fine with that.
Yeah. So lots of deals with Chicago. Not a lot of them particularly benefiting Arizona. I guess Nick Schmaltz eventually, but yeah. Interesting. And then 2019, his last year as a GM, took Victor Soderstrom, 11th overall. Matt Boldy was the next pick.
That's tough.
And I think there is Cole Caulfield was like 14th or 15th overall in that draft. It's like 2 or 3 picks later.
15th, yeah.
15th, yeah. So 4 picks later. Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, Thomas Harley at 18.
Yep.
Legend Sam Poulin at 21.
Yeah. One of the only players worse than Victor Soderstrom.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough with Soderstrom because of injuries and development issues and everything like that. But this was a pick that you could not afford to miss on, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Matt Boldy had almost as many goals this year as Soderstrom's played in his career games. So, Caulfield, so that's tough. Also missed on Alexi Protas in the third. Matthias Michelli, nice pick in the fourth. Give him his flowers. That's a nice find down the fourth. And then didn't find anybody kind of below Michelli. They could have had Vronkov, could have had Seelovs, and then the rest of these guys are nobody's really.
Yep.
2019 free agency. Didn't sign a single guy in UFA. It's also is kind of the time where he might have been talking to New Jersey and maybe not focus as much on benefiting the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, these are some tidy extensions, though. So I will
He's
say
really good extensions.
Like he had young guys on his team and he signed them to good deals. So
by 7.15 for 21-year-old Keller, nice. 3 by 1.53 for Boston Cross at 22. I mean that's S tier. Connor Garland on league min at 22 years old, not too bad. Michael Bunting, below league minimum at 23 years old, not too bad. Aiden Hill, some good players. Didn't sign, Archibald and Cousins and Panik and Picard, and didn't give him too much money.
Right.
So that side of him I'm not as concerned about.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Keller's still on that contract, and it's one of the best in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
That's a great deal.
Yeah. So this is his trades up until he resigned. Traded 29-year-old Connaughton in a third for Carl Soderberg with Colorado. Traded. So he traded up for the Soderstrom pick. So he traded the 14th overall and the 45th to get to 11.
Yep.
Could have stayed at 14 and drafted Cam York.
Cam York has played 300 NHL games and is like a top pairing defenseman on a playoff team this year.
Yeah. Or taking Cole Caulfield.
Right. Right.
Then still had your 45th overall pick, who ended up being Afanaseyev, who was like a 13th forward with Nashville. I don't remember who.
If you wanted an underperforming right-handed defenseman, that's a little bit disappointing. You could have taken Drew Hellison at 47.
Yeah, there you go. Also, with Pittsburgh, traded down with Pittsburgh, gave him the 74th overall pick for the 98th, the 151st, and the 207th. Which they get the best player in that deal with Michelli, so not too bad. Also trading Pittsburgh, he liked to trade Pittsburgh too, and I think this is Rutherford era. So if you see Toronto and Vancouver make trades, don't be surprised, because he only has 2 phone numbers in his phone. Yes, Stan Bowman and Jim Rutherford.
That's not true. He also has New Jersey's phone number in his phone.
Yes, Jersey might hang up on him actually. With Pittsburgh, traded Alex Galchenyuk at 25, P.O. Joseph at age 20 for 32-year-old Phil Kessel, Dane Burks, whoever that is, and a 4th overall pick in 2021, who ended up being nobody. Quite a desperate move to try to get some quality in the door, which they made the playoffs this season, so you could say it worked in the short term, but kind of yikes trading a 25-year-old and a 20-year-old for Phil Kessel.
I mean, it's a good thing neither of them were good.
Yeah, they didn't lose anything of value, and they picked up debatably not a ton of value.
I'm just saying this is a good trade in my books.
Yeah. And then his last trade he made with the New Jersey Devil, he sent 20-year-old Nate Schnarr, who's a nobody, 22-year-old Nick Merkley, who's like a 4th liner, 19-year-old Kevin Ball, who's a decent player, The 18th overall pick, which again they didn't know was 18th overall at the time, but it was a 2020 first and a 2021 third for Taylor Hall and Blake Spears, who was a not relevant prospect. Taylor Hall would not play past this season. Did not resign with Arizona. So they sent
that's tough.
A decent defense prospect in Ball and a first for Taylor Hall, who would be a rental.
Yep,
that's kind of tough. If we go back and criticize every rental in NHL history, there's going to be a lot of ugly ones. So I'm not going to penalize them too much, but in combination with a lot of the other trades, not loving a lot of them. I'd much rather have Ball and Mercer than Taylor Hall for 30 games.
Yeah. I mean, there's... Yeah.
So, wrapping up here, these are just some quotes from the Chayka press conference, which was really a Keith Pelley with Chayka and Sundin looking very uncomfortable next to him, answering questions from the Toronto media. These top ones are all Keith Pelley quotes. They're incredibly impressed and encouraged by John's vision, incredibly confident where we landed. He's methodical and measured. They say they conducted deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and they're happy where they landed. There's questions about how the roles work between him and Matt Sundin, who was hired at the same time. Matt Sundin is the special advisor to the general manager. He said, John is the GM of hockey operations. He and Matt will work collaboratively. Big decisions will be collective, which a lot of people was inferred as like collective as in the three of them. So Keith Pelley's going to
continue to stick his nose into things.
Yeah. And notably, John is the head of hockey operations, not president, which is the normal role that teams give out, is the president of hockey operations, because Rogers Corporate has eliminated all president titles from their company because president is a negative connotation. So it's just department heads, not presidents. So they created a new title in the NHL.
That's a fun one
for this.
That's a fun one.
That just shows how corporate this team is at this point, and corporately run. There's something else I didn't include from Pelley. Apparently he went around suggesting trades to Treliving using ChatGPT and other LLMs and like running ideas through AI. And it was like clearly AI according to the various anonymous sources.
That's just so funny.
And so
I don't know, man. If you don't know what you're doing, don't be pretending that you do.
Yeah. And some quotes here from Chayka in the middle, which I think shows exactly why the Leafs brought him in. He said, when asked about the gap in his resume, he said, while I did have a full-time job, it was involved in sports as well as on the capital side. Talked to world-class organizations around the world. He was apparently part of a golf organization, not the PGA or LIV, but some other one. He got to see sports in a different way, in a different lens. He got to raise capital, deploy capital, and generate great returns, which I'm pretty sure using that line got him hired by the Leafs. Because I think they're just purely in business mode.
Yeah.
Called Arizona a complicated situation. And through a very long, wordy answer, essentially threw scouts under the bus for the illegal prospect testing. That, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of moving parts, and they were trying to figure out the arena thing and everything going on in Arizona, and this just kind of fell between the cracks. So he kind of threw the scouting department under the bus for that issue. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. Arizona was a messy situation, so it's not impossible for that to be true. But not what you want to see out of a leader is to, throw the scouting department under the bus. And then these two quotes are from Paul Bissonnette and Rye Whitney on their podcast. Bissonnette was a Arizona Coyote for a good part of his career and is a very public Toronto fan, very openly rooting for them. Rye Whitney said when Chayka took over the Coyotes, he had Shane Doan willing to help however he can. Who is a franchise legend, was 39 years old, wrapping up his career. And he said Chayka pigeon tossed him. And Paul Bissonnette said that Shane Doan was stabbed in the back. Essentially, apparently, after he signed his 1 year deal and then brought him back, they brought him out to breakfast and we're gonna talk about his future, and basically told him like, yeah, we're moving on, so long. Which to a franchise legend who was willing to play whatever role,
right?
He'd already played reduced minutes on like the third and fourth lines. Apparently, kind of wanted a retirement tour year, and to hang him up, officially, and with some not disgracefully tossed aside, and also wanted to get into front office work, which he's an AGM with the Toronto Maple Leafs until. Earlier today, announced that he is parting ways with the Leafs as AGM. Leafs have a bajillion AGMs. I don't know what he did for the Leafs, to be completely honest. And I'm sure a lot of them are not going to get brought back because a new management in town, whether their name is Doan or not. But yeah, that what a mess.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. He doesn't have any young players to give good extensions to in Toronto. So,
yeah, his best asset. We'll see. So then we'll wrap up here with kind of what to do next. What does the future of the Leafs look like? They're going to have to, first of all, decide retool or rebuild. The door's open for rebuild, but it sounds like everybody's saying retool.
No one wants to rebuild because rebuilding costs you money. Because you lose fan engagements. There's no chance of playoffs, which means you lose any playoff money that you could get. Which this Leafs team could limp into the playoffs, especially with the first overall pick, which we'll get to in a second. But there's definitely there. So I think they're just gonna retool because they don't. It might not be the best long-term decision, but it's the best short-term decision. So I think that's what they're going to go with.
Yeah, and clearly they're in business mode. So
yes.
Whatever's going to do best for business is what they're going to go with.
And charging kids to wave the flag,
Yeah, charging kids to wave the flag pregame, or any of the other insane things like Zamboni rides and kids. Kids Day pregame events and stuff. Yeah. I didn't even mention all that. Mess. That's more Pelley than Treliving or Chayka, but yeah. They did get the first overall pick this year in the lottery.
Yeah, what a twist.
Rigged or not rigged, or whatever your take is. So they get to choose between picking McKenna, Stenberg, or Reed, or trading for a massive haul. I think they're going to stick and pick.
Yeah.
I feel like they almost have to pick McKenna because I think anything else would be, I don't know.
They got to pick
insane.
They got to pick the Canadian.
Yeah, you got to pick the Canadian kid.
You got to pick the Canadian kid.
The highly touted prospect. That's putting up, Bedardian numbers in juniors. You got. I think they got to go that way. That's the way I would like them to go as well, personally. But there's plenty of people who have Stenberg or Reed or Verhoff at the top of their board, and there's debate about that. So they got to figure out what they're going to do with there. What are you going to do with Matthews?
Yeah,
it's not so much about their decision, but or Matthews' decision. And what does he want to do?
We mentioned the Treliving extension a while back now, but that 4-year extension, we're getting there. There's only 1 year left here, so Matthews has a lot of negotiating power with a full no move clause, and pretty clearly at the very least displeased with missing the playoffs this year. We'll say that's at least a thing. But there have been rumors, there have been all kinds of things that have come out about just general friction there.
Yeah.
So we'll see if
he and Mitch were like super close. And when Mitch left, that hurt. He and Freddie Anderson were really close. So when Freddie left, that did a number. And also he was said that he was going to meet with Treliving this summer to discuss the direction of the Toronto Maple Leafs and where he fit in that direction and whether he wanted to partake in that direction.
Right.
And then Treliving got fired, and we haven't heard anything about that since. I don't know that this changes anything. And for the better for him. I mean, it is kind of interesting as a Arizona kid seeing a guy who like kind of destroyed the Coyotes and like had a hand in dooming them. Which, again, that's a lot of ownership and arenas and all that stuff. I don't know that he necessarily probably has the rosiest view of Chayka. As you know, a guy who was probably or definitely was a Coyotes fan and probably had some allegiance and love to them.
Certainly not the most favorable view on anything associated with what happens to the Coyotes. So it'll be interesting to see. Matthews has a lot of bargaining power here because of the contracts, because of the situation that the team is in and stuff like that. And a new toy like McKenna to go on his line could go a long way in terms of appeasing him, but it also could convince him that his timeline isn't the timeline that the Leafs are on anymore. Or that he's no longer going to be the face of the franchise, right? Like, I mean, who's going to be more popular in Canada? The boogeyman that's the captain of Team USA, or this awesome new Canadian kid who's been leading your World Juniors team to great heights, right? So
McKenna's jerseys are going to outsell Matthews's next year,
right?
A bajillion percent. Unless I guess he stays in Penn State for a year, but even then he still might outsell him in theoretical jersey sales.
Right.
People like guessing what his number is going to be.
So it's definitely interesting. I think Matthews wants to win. It seems like that's his thing. That's his primary motivation, more so than like being the best player or the most popular player or even the captain of his team. But like there's a lot there in terms of pride. And there's a lot there in terms of like, is this team even gonna win? Can they win? Is this roster so broken that even lucking into the first overall pick, like they have this first overall pick, they don't have their picks for the next 2 years now. Both of them completely unprotected. This was the way that the Lawton and the Carlo deal worked out. Boston gets their unprotected pick next year, and Philadelphia gets it the year after that. So they don't really have a lot of options in terms of being bad for their own sake. Like they can't just tank or not tank, soft tank for a good position. Like they kind of have to figure something out and do something here. So it'll be interesting.
Unless they trade Matthews and Nylander, and then you can tank because you hopefully get firsts back for either of them. But they also could, Adam Panarin it and get like a third back because, they say, hey, I'm going to LA, make it work.
And then whichever one you trade first, if the second one wants out after that, your return just goes down and down, right? So it's really an iffy situation here where you have a lot of good forwards that are like good, but defense wise, they gotta do something. They got some anchor contracts on that blue line.
They have like no prospects.
Like no potential in terms of like their defense. Defensively though, like literally no young players at all. Every single player on their blue line is like 32 or older basically, and not getting any better, and no relief coming down the line. and almost all of them signed for multiple years.
Yep.
So,
yeah, we'll do a full Leafs breakdown of I guess of their roster at a later time.
Yeah.
The next thing they got to figure out if they're going to keep Berube or fire and replace him. They still haven't made a decision yet. We'll see where they end up on that. I think they have to establish a new culture.
Yeah, and that's probably closely related to what their decision with Berube.
With Matthews and Berube.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they will. I think it'll still be very businessy. Because I think Pelley and Rogers are going to meddle their way through. But, I mean, they need to. Then you figure out what you're going to do with Nylander, which I think is going to largely depend on what you do with Matthews. Get more picks and prospects. This is a team that they need help in the pipeline. Even if you're going to retool, I think you still have to.
No, I mean they've been win now. This last little bit just depleted every single thing that they have. Like they basically need to either get a lot of like picks and prospects somehow with like smart asset management, or they need to just like hit on some random weird picks, or
free agency, steals or something.
But like, man, players just aren't free agents anymore.
Yeah,
you know, like you can't really like free up cap space and get yourself like guys in free agency because like players are just signing longer term deals because there's more money because of the rising cap era. Like people are just so unwilling to let people go to free agency that there just aren't really
trading.
Yeah, they're just aren't
like
the
guys
way
like Dakota Joshua are getting sent away for a fourth instead of getting walked to free agency.
The way that you build your roster now is through trades, and Toronto doesn't have very many assets or tradable contracts, right? A lot of the guys that they would want to retool around have or retool away from, right, have no move clauses and stuff like that, which makes it a lot harder to trade their contracts. A guy like Morgan Riley, who I think has had his best time with the Leafs, is gone. Still has 4 years left on his deal, but maybe could be something to somebody, or you could like you could do some kind of you know what I mean. There's something there, but his move clause just completely prevents that from really being something talked about. And then also, you know, we just went over Chayka and all the things that we said were bad were trades. And I guess hitting on some of the draft picks too, which are the two things I think that'll be
on the late ones. That all you're gonna have are late ones.
So those are two key things to the Leafs' future, and I'm a little concerned for what they'll be able to do. You know, if I'm voting, I 100% think they need to fire Craig Berube because I think they need a big shift. You know. Not even that he's a terrible coach, which he might be. You know, certainly looks like he's not a very good one. But just like you just need a complete divorce from what happened this season because
and like he was throwing the players under the bus in the post-game pressers. Like he clearly like hated this team.
Yeah.
And his rosters. So like I don't know why he would want to come back unless they completely like retool this thing on the fly and get rid of everybody that he hates, which I don't even know if that's possible. So yeah. We quickly mentioned it, but you know they got to rebuild that blue line. They can't be that old on the blue line. And then you know Nyes is a name that's brought up quite often in trades. Is he going to fit your timeline? He's one of the guys that doesn't have a no movement clause, has a really nice contract.
Yeah, but like he kind of
get you some premium assets.
He kind of has to fit. Like you kind of want him to fit your timeline. Like you don't want to have to find another Nyes. But like also if he's the only tradable piece on your entire roster, then like maybe that's a decision you have to make. It's really lose-lose for that, like where. Yeah.
So pretty tough to signal to your fans that like a 23-year-old isn't going to fit your timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh yeah, we're not going to be good when Nyes is good. Like what? Like,
that's what I mean.
10
like
years?
Like Nyes McKenna is such a good like start to a young forward group that like if you trade away Nyes, it's such a Yeah, I agree. It doesn't say good things to your team. It also probably isn't making, like, you're not getting a better player there, right? Like, it's another one of those cases
Probably
where
not.
it's a Marner type a thing where, like, you're trading like up high end talent for depth, and
Yeah.
it's not
Well, they're doing it
really
for like you're gonna go get their Phil Kessel or their Taylor Hall or
right. Yeah.
their Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that would be what they'd be getting back. Which, yeah, I do not want to see them move nice
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever
Mm-hmm.
because I don't trust the return unless they get like a silly good return,
Mm-hmm.
multiple firsts, and a quality maybe depth more depth player. And then just briefly looking at their UFAs, I don't know if they need to bring back any of these guys. We know Yarncrow, Stetcher, Benning, Boyd, Letary. They can let all those guys go. The RFA is a little more interesting. Matthias Michelli. Obviously, Chayka has some history with Michelli. I'd expect him to resign Michelli.
Uh-huh.
Nick Robertson, are they going to keep him in, bottom six, healthy scratch jail forever? Are they going to move him? Are they finally going to get some value in a trade for him after he had a pretty solid season?
Uh-huh.
And then, a bunch of these guys are prospects that are not that interesting. I love Villanueva. I would really want to see him get a chance on the blue line, but he's probably not that much of a guy. But he intrigues me. And then the rest of these guys are kind of nobodies.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the the Toronto saga so far this summer. I guess we'll see what happens with Matthews. I guess and Berube. Those are probably the next two shoes that fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess then wherever they do in the draft. Hopefully it's nice and boring.
Yeah.
They select Gavin McKenna.
I just don't know if boring is good enough for this team at this point. Like,
well, I just I don't want to.
You don't want Chayka to ruin it.
They better get a good trade.
Yeah, but it's
That's all I'm
like
saying.
I just don't see a world
trade.
where they just add McKenna and do nothing else.
Oh no, the summer needs to be more than that. But the day one of the draft,
Oh yeah,
the first round,
you'd like to see one selection
nice,
of Gavin
boring,
McKenna.
Just take Gavin McKenna.
Yeah,
and we'll figure everything else out from there.
Yeah,
just take the best player on the board.
Mm-hmm.
You have the first overall pick. You won't have a pick this good again
ever.
Another decade, or ever again.
Yeah.
And
if you're Vancouver, it'll be ever. So.
Yeah.
Like ever.
That's what I hope for.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos coming out about GMs and other teams in there, looking at what they did last year, and what they're going to do moving forward, as well as the GM ones. Maybe talking about some plans that have maybe gone a little awry, and other general managers. But if you enjoyed, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, whether on YouTube or Spotify, and we hope you have a great one. Goodbye.